Carry On Only, dedicated to inspiring your next global adventure. And now, here's your host and personal guide, award-winning photographer, creative director, and travel expert, taking you around the world in style, Jill Pater.
I'm your host, Kevin, with my good friend, Sam.
Hello.
How's it going, Sam?
You know, it's going...
Hanging in there?
Oh,
Awesome.
I'm hanging.
We are back again with Travel and Style, sponsored by Calpac. And as usual, we have our resident travel expert, Jill Pater, with us. How's it going, Jill?
It's going great. Thank you.
Awesome. So today, you're going to take us to Namibia.
I am.
Of which I have basically zero idea of where it is, what goes on there. So I need you to basically tell me everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Namibia is located on the southern part of the African continent, so it's just north of South Africa on the west coast. And it's one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, most beautiful countries that I've ever visited anywhere, but in Africa as well. And it has the lowest population density in the world. It's also one of the safest countries in Africa to travel to. So it's one of the few, I would say, in Africa that you can really, rent a car and travel around easily and safely by yourself.
And so how was traveling around
how long is
by
that?
yourself?
It was definitely an adventure. I was there with one of my good friends who's South African, and we rented a car. I mean, we were working with a travel agent based out of Johannesburg, South Africa. She helped us kind of get some of the lodges we stayed at and rent the car and do some of the basic travel arrangements. And we didn't really know going into it. We asked her, do you need a 4x4? Can you get away with a regular sedan? She's like, oh yeah, you'll be fine in a sedan. So we go to the car rental place and we pick up this car, and it's a brand new gold Toyota Camry.
It's just a loud
car. We're in a gold car.
Okay.
And we're laughing. And, of course, we bought insurance so that basically we never had to bring the car back. If the car didn't make it, we wouldn't be on the line for anything.
That's good.
And we did. We traveled around. And one of the things we didn't know going into it is that the vast majority of the roads within the country are gravel. So we were not on paved roads. So we kind of planned the trip
in this gold car.
In this gold car.
New gold car.
But we thought, thinking that most of these roads are paved, like most of the major roads are paved, and a lot of them are not. So that added a little time to our trip, but it made for a very good adventure.
Was actually getting it to Namibia hard?
It is. Again, it's similar to, we talked about going to Cape Town, South Africa. So essentially, like most of the flights, you'll go through Johannesburg and then take a flight up to the capital city, Windhoek. And so that it is an African, all of our African, unfortunately, our Middle East, Africa from the U.S., those are longer flights.
Sure.
Yeah, those are 18-plus hour flights.
Well worth it, though.
Yes, definitely. I mean, there is no place in the world like Namibia. There's no comparison.
That's what I was just going to ask. What makes it so special?
So its topography, I think, makes it incredibly unique. So it's very kind of desert-esque oriented, the majority of the country. And we were there in winter, so things were particularly they felt more deserty than, less lush than they probably normally would as well. But I think just the expanse of landscape that's untouched is so rare. Like their Skeleton Coast, which goes along the west coast of the country, it's uninhibited. You can't really touch down. You have to take a small aircraft over it to even see it. And so it's just these massive, if you imagine California being a state of massive rolling dunes into the ocean, I mean, it's just unthinkable, right? Like every place this beautiful is so populated and so has so much tourism, and Namibia doesn't. It's just, very low population density. There is tourism there. But again, even, tourists can't fill up the entire country.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with there being gravel roads and low population density, why choose to go there? Was it for work or was it for...
Did you know about it ahead of time? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was at the time, I knew I wanted to go on safari, and I had such a great experience in South Africa, loved Cape Town, and wanted another, kind of a new African experience. And was looking around. We were considering Botswana. We were considering Botswana and Namibia. And we just narrowed it down. We started looking at it. You see photos of it, and it's absolutely tremendous. And then we just figured with everything that we're going to do in Namibia, it made sense to just focus on that country versus trying to fit in, multiple countries on that trip.
Were you there for work or pleasure, both?
Both. I did do some shooting while I was there, but it was mainly a pleasure, interest that drove the trip. And then, a lot of the images have been used in editorial and in books since. Yeah.
Yeah, especially since you guys were in a car, I feel like there was a little bit more freedom there to adventure around and just, be a little bit spontaneous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely adventure travel. Our car was so full of dust. I think we had more sand in the car than we did in the desert at the end of the trip. It was
Well,
fun.
speaking of dust,
Yes.
what was packing like? And how did you prepare for the safari life?
Well, the nice thing about safari life in general is that you're in the same kind of clothes all the time. You usually don't have to. I mean, you'll switch clothes after the day if you need to, but you're switching the same type of clothes. You don't need, really evening wear. Everyone pretty much wears the standard. When you think of safari clothes, that's exactly what people wear.
I think of cargo pants.
Yeah, cargo pants,
khaki,
navy,
Mm-hmm.
The green, your green
hat,
cargo pants, the
bucket
hat,
thing.
the white shirts, the white kind of light linen shirts. Yeah.
I feel like you could still make that cute.
So you can. I think
like-
it's a great look,
it's just
actually.
really-
Yeah. And so for me, that's a very easy pack because you don't need, all these different types of clothes. And all the safari lodges will launder your clothes. So you don't need to bring
okay.
a ton of things. And oftentimes on safaris, sometimes people take small aircraft between different camps and things because the roads are so rough. And when you take those small aircraft, they have very limited luggage. So it's usually 10 kilograms. So that's not a lot. And so oftentimes you have to really pack low for safaris. You have to pack with the intention of having things laundered. There's no other way to do it.
Do you know that before you go? You
Yes.
research that? And...
Yeah, I mean, they should tell you that. You're usually booking it through some type of provider, and they should definitely tell you that. But
They don't show up your large checked luggage.
But recently, I was on a trip with my sister, and we didn't. It was kind of a last minute thing, and we didn't. We kind of kept getting these requirements late, and when we saw the 10 kilogram, we were both 10 kilograms
It's
is
a
not a lot
Ziploc
of
baggie
weight.
and that's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't even know what that.
But there's a certain freedom to that too, because you're so taken care of when you're at these lodges, and everybody's in the same kind of clothes and things. So there's you don't feel like you're out of place in any way,
underdressed
shape, or
or
form.
overdressed.
Exactly.
So the lodges, where did you guys stay, and how did you choose that? Did you go through a booking agent, or
We did. So the one thing with safari lodges in general, you can't typically, there are some that are not this way, but you can't typically just book them online. You
Okay.
usually have to call or, email somebody, and they help you kind of plan the trip, plan your because they're also planning or helping you plan your transportation in and out. So we went through, in this case, a South African travel agent who helped us just make the bookings, kind of give us an idea of how long we needed to spend at each place, the driving distance between places, and then the car rental.
So you keep saying safari, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you guys rented a car and were driving, but are you talking the type of safari where you actually see, lions and giraffes and all that?
Yes, so
You guys
we
aren't driving that, right? Or do you have
well
tour
actually
guides?
that another very unique part of
Actually.
You're driving next to a lion.
Actually,
hey,
yeah. No, actually, one of the parts of Namibia that's very unique is we did drive through. So the northern part of the country is a national park called Etosha National Park, and you can drive through. You can also do this via tours and
That's
other things.
wild.
So we actually
know.
drive through the entire park, and you're driving by giraffes. It's a massive park. You're driving by giraffes and you're driving by animals. And so it's totally weird, because you're there's a giraffe.
Are you freaked out a little bit?
Yeah.
If you
Well,
see
you
a cheetah
can't,
and it's
you can't. I mean, there are definitely
stay in
safety
the-
things. You have to
right,
stay
right.
in the car. You can never separate yourself
Yeah.
from the car unless you're in
It's
approved
gravel
areas.
roads, but there's a pathway.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes, for sure.
I
For
could just
sure.
And
imagine.
just accidentally wander off into
Right.
or
And
lions
then
or-
while you're at the lodges, they usually take you on the game drives
Right.
where you'll see more of the cheetah,
Okay.
the harder animals to see on the road, so to speak.
Right. And what Kevin was asking is perfect, because I think of safaris and we have these typical ideas of what it's like. But what else surprised you when you were out there in Namibia that you didn't expect?
Well, I think oftentimes when we think of safari, we either think of South African safari and Kruger National Park, or the East African safari, so Kenya, Tanzania, and we've kind of seen those pictures in the lush jungle. I think what's so surprising about Namibia was just the vastness of the land, and it being kind of desert, and it being this very beautiful kind of monochromatic levels of beige and sand and things. So it was so big and so vast, and just no people. I mean, even though that going in, when you're out when you're out and you're driving on the road for hours and you don't see a single person,
Right.
it's kind of crazy,
Is that
and you're driving through
creepy,
an
or is that peaceful?
It's very peaceful.
Amazing. Yeah, that
very
sounds
Not
like
peaceful.
like
one with
horror
nature.
film.
Except when you have a flat
in the middle
tire
of
that it gets a
nowhere.
little bit,
Right, what do we do because there's a cheetah right there?
Right. Right.
Who's changing the spare?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
not
at
me.
one point, we decided to do this day trip. We thought it was going to be 4 hours, and it ended up being like almost a 6 to 8 hour drive. And there's no like convenience stores. There were no, and so we were kind of starving because we had snacks with us, but we
Yeah.
didn't realize we were going to be kind of gone this long from the lodge. And so we stopped and we asked. There was this museum, kind of like museum place where they had a lot of sand indigenous art on the rocks that had been drawn in. So that's where we were going. And we figured this is a pretty big site that they would have, refreshments or something there.
Yeah.
And so we asked and they're like, no, sorry, we don't have anything. And we're like, well, where would be the closest thing? And they said, well, our family, killed something like a couple weeks ago and we still have it roasting. There's that. And we're just like, well,
Okay.
well, so
no
there's really,
Doritos or
yeah,
anything?
yeah.
Just a new
So
thing
like
of
the
snacks.
distances are so big and like that was just something that would never happen here. You never drive for 8 hours. And actually in most places in the world where you wouldn't run into people or
Right.
food or anything. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right. So, I mean, there are some things that you can't fully prepare for, but as far as documentation or just like getting in and out of Africa, is there anything that you have to be aware of just to really be prepared to visit?
I think just in general, certain African countries require visas, others do not. Namibia does not require a visa for U.S. citizens, or a lot of them will have visa on arrival. And so, you don't really have to worry about that so much. I think it's just kind of knowing, your transportation options. And like Namibia, it's like knowing that it is this very large country. It's not super populated, and it's not like super touristy. So just kind of knowing that, having that in your back of your mind. So we're going from one place to the other. If we stop, we'll have to either pack a lunch or bring something along with us because there aren't, we're not going to come along places we're going to stop.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the biggest thing is having a sense of where you're going and what it's like to travel within that destination and what you might need to kind of plan on in between.
Yeah. Cost-wise, not only like how was it like, purchasing your ticket over there, but also how was it cheap, expensive, affordable while you were there?
So I would say Namibia is in between. Again, you have like with a longer international flight to a not what I would call like such a popular destination. The flight is obviously it's not super cheap to fly there. And then your lodges tend to be, because the lodges for the most part are inclusive, you're eating at the lodge because there's nowhere else, there's nowhere else to eat. So you tend to eat at the lodges. The lodges like take care of everything else too, like your laundry services and your game drives and everything else. So they're not, it's not really super budgety that way, but once you're there, everything is kind of included in that fee. So
Okay.
I would say it's moderate. There are ways you can save. Certainly, there are ultra luxury places you can stay, and you can do all fly-ins. So you're flying in small Cessnas from one part of the country to the next, and so that would be kind of the ultimate luxury. But there are certainly more affordable places to stay, affordable lodges too as well.
What's the nightlife like in Namibia?
There's no nightlife. Yeah.
Is there much to any at all?
Like-
No, it's really down to the lodge you stay at. And that's why I think, especially in traveling to Africa, if you're doing, these types of safaris, to keep in mind is that the lodge you stay at is responsible for kind of everything you're going to be doing. And so, from the drives to the level of, accommodations they have to the food, everything's there. And so it's something to keep in mind, like you might want to upgrade a little bit on
Right.
that because it is
Just have more
it's-
options and
Yeah, more
activities.
options.
Like
yeah.
I know you like to mix up the way you travel and kind of where you go, but do you prefer that? Kind of where if you go to Namibia and it's like you're going to one place and that's really kind of all of your entertainment, your activity versus London or wherever there's a lot of stuff going on. Do you prefer one type of traveling versus another?
I like a mix of both. I mean, I think for me, I am a city person. I do like being out in the country, and this was definitely
Way out there.
an epic trip.
Right.
It was epic. Like
That's
I
great.
wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be able to, that being said, I wouldn't be able to do this type of trip back to back every
right.
time.
Yeah.
It's kind of a once in a life. And you kind of have to, I think, know what you're getting into and be geared up for that type of trip.
Yeah.
But it's a magnificent part. There's nothing else like it, I think, because everything else is so either developed in the world or so touristy or so populous. So to be like out in the wild like this with animals and with, just all these different landscapes, and to have it so natural and be just like completely unruined by humanity is like a pretty big thing.
Yeah. That's why when you said peaceful, that was a good word, because you are just one with nature and one with animals.
Is it hard, like if you go to a place, as remote as Namibia, and you are doing some shooting, like some work, is it hard to stay focused just because the sights have to be amazing and like everything you're seeing and taking in? Is it hard to actually do your work?
It's actually easy because you are just so much, everything is based around the landscape. So you're shooting tons of landscapes, and there's a part of you that's just like, you just want to capture it because you've never seen anything like it and you want to remember that forever. And so capturing that's easy. And then the other element are these lodges, which oftentimes are, very beautiful, very unique. And so kind of shooting those interiors and exteriors, it's just kind of a part of the trip. And the one thing about safari type trips is that you have a lot of downtime, right? You're usually doing probably a game drive in the morning and maybe one in the evening, but a lot of it is just like about relaxing and being in nature and not on the go, 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 go. So it makes it really, in a way for me, easy because there's nothing else really competing for your time.
To distract you.
Right.
How long would you recommend anybody staying?
Depends how much of the country you want to see.
Okay.
I would say, because it is a longer flight in and out, I would say, definitely 10 days to 2 weeks.
10 days to 2 weeks. And
Yeah,
what
at a minimum.
Mm-hmm. What is like the best time of the year to go to Namibia?
So it's also Southern Hemisphere. So we were there in October, and that was kind of their shoulder season.
Okay.
But I would say similar to South Africa, like November to March, November to February is going to be like their key summertime.
What was that climate like when you were there? I mean, is it like
It was
70s?
beautiful. They're just coming out of winter.
Sure.
So it's kind of like their spring. So things aren't as lush, but I actually really love that in terms of the desert because it just gave it this beautiful, very kind of, like monochromatic tone to it that was just like stunning to photograph.
Yeah.
And then the weather, it was definitely warm during the day and then cooled off at night. So it was pretty, in my world, that's pretty perfect.
Yeah, especially photographing it.
Yeah.
Love to see those photos.
Yeah, and the stars, like, when you're in those kind of
nights are
places at
amazing.
night are pretty amazing.
That's the nightlife.
That's the nightlife, yeah.
Just
And-
looking up.
And at the lodge, you're relaxing. They bring in like amazing, mostly South African wines and things. So it's just like chilling out and relaxing.
It's like a must-see, must-go, like once-in-a-lifetime thing
Yes,
to do.
for sure.
Amazing. So thank you for taking us to Namibia.
Sure.
I love Namibia now. I'm convinced.
Are you going to go?
Kevin?
You're going to go on a safari?
I'm going to every place
Every
Jill
place we talk
recommends.
about, we're going.
Exactly. Like exactly how she did it too. So it's now time for Jill's packing hack of the day. And we're going to talk about, you were talking about in Namibia how it's not so accessible for like convenience stores or liquor stores or gas stations. So what are these comfort items that you find yourself bringing from trip to trip?
Sure. So for every trip, I think it makes a huge difference there's certain creature comfort things that we all love. And I think having those in your onboard bag, or if you travel carry-on only, it would obviously be with you. But even if you check luggage, having certain things in your carry-on board, it gives you a sense of home without, while you're enjoying the travel, and a sense of comfort on your trip. It's kind of like a known thing as you're going into the unknown. And for me, that's things like there's certain teas I love, dark chocolate for sure. I have my certain like gluten-free bars that I pack. But even like I load up my Kindle with like tons of books, having headphones, having certain music. You could be like your airplane socks or your eye mask, but just certain creature comforts, things that you really love.
My sneakers.
And that
I bring my sneakers.
Don't need
it's
all
always
of them.
close with you, Kevin. Just having those things with you, it just gives you, because when you travel, you do tend to have a lot of downtime, and it's a great time to catch up on things you might have wanted to read or shows you want to watch. It could be TV, it could be a podcast, like Travel and Style. And so just having those things with you, then
Yeah.
it gives you a certain level of comfort.
Sure.
I always have, like, for me, snacks are very important. So having, like,
So snacks that's very important.
Very
I get it.
your things.
It
you know?
allows you to not get what is it, homesick.
Sure.
I feel like you need those certain things because things could get a little.
I mean, you're out there.
You're just
You're out there. It's way out
There's got to
there.
be like one little thing to remind you of home.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Well, Jill, as always, thank you again for giving us insight on Namibia. That is I mean, it's just wild that you have spent a significant amount of time there. It sounds like an amazing place to travel to.
Carry on only.
Thanks for listening to Carry On Only, dedicated to inspiring your next global adventure. Listen to Jill take you around the world in style, live every week right here or 24/7 on demand at starworldwidenetworks.com. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. For immediate access to Jill's destination guides, blog, and show notes, please visit jillpater.com and follow her on Instagram at Jill Pater.